Hello, Adrian Ashton here, and welcome to tutorial number 2 in the social enterprise specialism strand. In this tutorial, we're considering two key aspects of social enterprise. The first is about need. What's the need that the social enterprise is addressing? And actually, is there enough of a need? And is it the right need? And secondly, impact. How do we know it's working? So, as with the other tutorials, there's some text, some tables, some reflective questions as you get through the materials, and then also some links. And in this case, those links take you onto other resources, other toolkits and planning as well. In the context of the social business model canvas, this tutorial considers the center section. What's the point of your social enterprise? What difference are you making? And crucially, how do you know you're achieving that? So, firstly, let's look at that first question. What's the point of your social enterprise? What difference are you making? So, what you can say is many social entrepreneurs, many social enterprises originate because a person like me or like you look out of the window and say, that's wrong. Someone should do something about that. And I've got an idea for how it might work. Or they think about the job they're in at the moment, the place they're working, and go, this business could be so much better if only it wasn't concerned with chasing the money all of the time, if we turned it over for good. So that originating point is really crucial because in the experience of the wider social enterprise sector, most social enterprises originate from the founder's lived experience because of the health that issue that they recovered from, because of a challenge they faced with family members and how the support that their family member needed wasn't available from any other place. So they created it. And rather than think about saying, well, let's set up a charity, let's set up a philanthropic traditional charity to pass around the hat and that'll raise the money so we can meet that need. They've instead decided there's a way that we could trade. We've got an idea for how we could set this up as a business, as a social enterprise, which is fantastic. But one of the things that we kind of look at through this specialism as well is the point about a feasibility study. And a feasibility study is key because many social entrepreneurs start out saying, I think there's a great need. I think I've got a great idea for how to fix it. But as they come to start it and test it and work it out, they discover that that marketplace, the customers, the people who will pay for that need to be addressed isn't there or isn't of a sufficient size or value to cover the costs of delivering that service. So, for example, this point about customers and consumers is a really key one. Then people in need are not always the same as the people who will pay. Your consumers, the people who your social enterprise exists to support, are not always the same as the people who will pay for that support to be met. Because those consumers, those people in need, may not have the means to pay you. So instead, we look for an alternate business model, some kind of bridging approach, which says we hold a public sector contract to deliver a health service to meet those people's needs. Or we deliver our services through social prescribing. Or we're partnered, we're contracted through, say, the Ministry of Justice to work with ex-offenders to support them that way. But the difficulty is there's two key questions there that we need to explore and which this tutorial starts to unpick a bit more. The first question is, there may be a gap in the market, a need to be met, but is there a market in that gap? Is there a market in that need? Just because someone is in need because there's some horrible problem, a social enterprise has to find a way to find somebody who will pay, a customer, be that an individual consumer, a retailer, a shop, an online sale, or be that a contractor or a commission or some other model. So that's a key thing to work it out. And then going on from that, there's this next problem that social enterprises have. Your consumers, the people you benefit, have a different expectation and need for your customers. Let me kind of break this down a bit. So if we are supporting people in community, They will expect your service, they will expect to be treated, their interests for how your model works will be radically different to that of how an NHS trust who commissioned you to deliver that service will want you to work. The analogy to illustrate this better, perhaps, is about cakes. Okay, hands up if you like cake. So fantastic! I can see through my camera. All of you have put your hands up for liking cake. So cakes are made by bakers, and there's an analogy in marketing terms called the baker's dilemma. And the baker's dilemma is this: when he's got his bakery and he's setting out his shop window, what type of cake does he put in the window? It's obvious, cake is cake. No. Now, if any of you have children or have been parents in the past, this is a scenario that you'll be familiar with. If any of you watching and listening do not have children, this is a warning tale for you in years to come when you do have kids. So the baker can choose. Does he put a chocolate cake in the window? Chocolate, sprinkles, icing, candles, sparklers. Or does he put a carrot cake in the window? The deal is this: if he puts a chocolate cake in the window, he knows that children who walk past his window will want the cake, because children, the consumer, have a criteria. We want chocolate. We want icing. We want sprinkles. We want sparklers. And through their nagging and pester power, they will convince us, their parents, the customer who's buying it on their behalf, to go in the shop and buy them the cake. But we won't be happy, because we have a criteria that is different to our child's. We want them to eat vaguely healthy. We don't want to stuff them full of chocolate and sugar and icing and sprinkles all the time. So we're upset. We've gone with it, but we're upset. And so the chances are in future, we won't take that path. We won't walk past that shop window again. So the baker can do it the other way. He can put a carrot cake in the window, because as parents, as the customer for the consumer, the child, we have a criteria, which is we want our kids to eat vaguely healthy. Carrot cake is still cake, but it's slightly healthier than chocolate cake. It has less icing on it, less sprinkles, so it's healthier for our child. So we walk past a shop window and we say to our child, look, this is a great cake. Why don't you have some of this? Because we would be happy to pay for that on your behalf. And our child goes, what the heck? Carrots in a cake? Ugh. And we lose the sale. So the baker has this dilemma. Who do they try and satisfy first or the most? Because consumers, people who benefit from your service, if they're not also the customer, will have a different expectation and a need for how you meet the customer's expectations and criteria. And again, the social business model canvas starts to unpick this as well. Who benefits and who pays? There's that box on the right-hand side of the canvas that helps you explore that and start to think about that differently. So that's thinking about social enterprise. Just because there's a need does not automatically mean a social enterprise is the best response to it. And in terms of addressing that need, what's the kind of business model that starts to emerge? Are you going to become a baker with that dilemma? People you're supporting, people who are paying, and they're very different. Or will you hit the magic button and they're both the same? Much easier to manage. Now, let's go back to the start of this opening a bit and prompt, and also that section on the social business model canvas that we're looking at. What's the difference that you're making? Okay, so we've clarified that. Who are the customers and who pays? Clarified that. But the other bit, how do you know it's working? How do you know you're making a difference? This is about impact. What's the point of view? How can you justify? How can you explain to other people, funders, investors, customers, that your social enterprise is having the desired effect? It's creating the change in the world that you're hoping it is. That need that you've identified is being tackled, is being resolved. Now, the danger is with the push on impact and how we measure impact and how we report impact, it's become subsumed and it's become a groundswell that says, oh, our funders and investors, we must report our impact and measure it for the external audiences, our funders and our investors. And I think that's the bad way. I think that's the wrong way to do it, because our funders and our investors will change over time. If we're applying for grants, the criteria of grant making bodies will change over time. If we're bidding for public sector contracts, the local authorities, the health bodies, what they prioritize as being of most need in our community or our environment will change over time. So if we set up our impact and how we think about how we're measuring it and capturing it and reporting it to suit other people first, we're not in control of that enterprise anymore. It's slipping, it's shifting, it's not staying true to the original vision. So the best way to think about doing impact is, how does it work for you? What's the vision that this social enterprise has been set up to create? And what do you feel, or what does it feel, are the best ways that it can consistently and continually manage that, measure it, report on it? Because there's an adage in the business world, which is what gets measured gets managed. If we're reporting on it, we'll keep an eye on it. It's a bit like accounts, our bank accounts, even personally. We keep an eye on the balance in our bank account to make sure we've always got enough money coming in, so we're not going to overspend. Works the same way in a social enterprise. Keep an eye on the bank balance and the accounts, make sure we're still trading okay. But it should also work the same way in impact. What are you measuring? What is that social enterprise measuring that assures it's on the right track, that its activities are the right things to be doing in addressing that aim? So as part of this tutorial and the material we've got within it and the links going on, we've got some additional templates to help you start to map that out. And rather than kind of give you loads of reporting guides and such like, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with, just as we've got the social business model canvas as a nice visual prompt, we're going to introduce another visual planning tool called a theory of change. A theory of change is your workings out. This is how we think our social enterprise will work to create that impact, to fix that need. And once we've kind of unpicked that a bit using this mapping template, it then becomes quite easy to start to say, well, if that's going to happen, we could measure that. How many people are coming through? How many people are coming back for support once we've supported them? How many people can then get a job? Okay, you do it on your terms. The enterprise stays in control of it that way. And then in the further reading and the links, there's some guidance and there's some references to other databases and places that you can go to pull out the big traditional forms and standards and frameworks. But start with that. Start with what works for you. What's your theory of change? What's your workings out? And again, this is nothing new. Okay, think back to when you were younger at school and you were learning to do maths. One of the things that all good maths teachers drill into our heads is show your workings out. So even if you get the answer wrong, you can still get the credit and the marks that you've understood how the process works. In a social enterprise, the theory of change is that equivalent. This is your workings out. This is how your social enterprise, or the social enterprise that's been created, is working to address and fix that need. So anyone can pick it up and it makes sense. It understands very clearly and can explain to anyone else very visually and quickly how it is creating impact, how it is addressing the need, how its activities and trading are making the world a better place. That's tutorial 2. Hopefully you'll enjoy it as you go through.